to another episode of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. Thank you all for joining us. If you are on LinkedIn, please ensure that you follow myself as well as Doreen. Follow the show, Breaking Into Cybersecurity. If you're joining us on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification button. That way you can get notified the next time we come on. And if you're joining us after the fact on podcast, don't forget to share with all your friends and family for anyone that's interested in cybersecurity, because I think today we'll have a great story from Doreen that really shows how you can use transferable skills from any part in your life and apply it to cybersecurity. So Doreen, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I have a lot of background. So I'm Doreen Ellinwood. I am currently doing operational technology cybersecurity training. And I actually was in a completely different field just over 2 years ago. So you could say I am a recent breaking into cybersecurity person. Actually started out in tech probably many years ago, over 20 years ago, because I was working for a company and I took a computer class, and the instructor and I had lunch, and I said, "Oh, I would love to do what you do." And she said, "We're hiring." And that's how I became a computer trainer. And then that just took me places. And now I'm back in tech in cybersecurity, and I do cybersecurity awareness training.
Well, let's kind of talk about that first PC training role.
Okay.
You mentioned you just asked the instructor, like, what can I do? And then you're like, we're hiring. It was that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. And I think often it is. I always say you get a job because of what you know or who you know. And if you don't know anybody and you don't know anyone, you got to start learning things and meeting people. And so I always try to, talk to people who are doing interesting things to see what's out there. And that was in the 90s during the big tech boom when I worked for a company that's no longer in existence called ExecuTrain. And all they did was corporate training. They did help people get trained in whatever, Excel, PowerPoint, Lotus Notes. They would literally hand you a manual and say, "You're learning this tomorrow." And you have to learn it. And I got a lot of really good skills through that. And then I kind of, just followed people. People, had opportunities, and I tried to always say yes. Does anybody know how to write a manual? Well, I never wrote a manual before, but I have a degree in English. So I was like, well, how hard can it be? And that got me into another job, got me into law firms, and I had niched myself sort of into law firm technology. And I didn't really love it. So I decided that I was going to retrain myself to do something else, and decided, well, doesn't have to retrain myself. I should do something else. So I became a massage therapist, about as opposite of technology as I possibly could be. And I did that so I could dye my hair purple and never wear shoes again. But then I wound up getting the most corporate massage job possible. I spent about 15 years working for Massage Envy. It's a national chain of massage franchises. And I was their trainer and vice president of operations, and working directly with business owners on increasing their business and profitability and training their staff and a little bit of everything. And then I wanted to change again, so I did another change. Now I'm back.
Let's talk about that. So you started as a massage therapist, and then you grew within the organization to do all the operations, logistics, working with the businesses. Like, I'm sure that journey alone, you learned so many skills along the way.
Yeah, a lot of it is, and I think this serves me well in cybersecurity, in tech in general, is being able to speak the business to the people and people to the business. And I think that's the same thing as when you want to talk tech to the board or the CEO or to someone out of tech, getting them to understand why something is important in a language that they understand, which isn't necessarily the language that it's in. And I think that's really served me well in getting back into tech, is being able to speak the language of whoever you're trying to communicate with.
And so you now you go from running operations to operational technology security awareness. Like,
Yeah,
what got you interested in operational technology? Because that's
yeah.
already such a niche space, and then security awareness within that.
Yeah. I always say that my career path is the shiny object career path. I see something and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then I go for it. So right around the time that I was feeling like I had done everything I could possibly do at Massage Envy, I was approached by a woman that I had worked for before I left technology. Well, actually, she posted on Facebook, tech needs more women. So I responded, I like, I've been out of tech for like almost 20 years. Is it too late for me? And she's like, never. So I connected with her, and through her, I wound up getting into being a project manager for an InfoSec team, which is such a great thing. Like project management in a tech space, if you don't have the current technology or any technology, being tech adjacent while people are spinning up their projects really gives you such insight into so many different things. And on the side, I worked for her and did some work for her private clients. So she has private clients that are trying to get HIPAA compliant or GDPR compliant. So I wound up doing a lot of work with her with policies and procedures. I got my certified information privacy professional certification through her. And I thought that was a really great way to get interested and knowledgeable about the topics without having to get so deep down into the tech. I think if you don't have any tech background at all, diving right down into ports and protocols and firewalls and all that can be demotivational, because unless you're working in networking, it's so hard to wrap your head around those things. But through her, part of getting these companies up and running on their compliance is they have to have policies and procedures, but they also have to have training. They have to show that they can train their staff on these things. So I was creating cybersecurity awareness training, and that was the part that I loved the most. And so as I was looking to maybe move out of project management, I started to wonder what my next step was going to be. So I actually reached out to a career counselor. And I actually just wrapped up with her because I love this job that I'm in now, that I don't need her anymore. I fired her because she has done her job. And she really helped me kind of think about what my next step was, what in technology I was really interested in. And it's the training piece. And so when I got approached by the company I'm at now to do cybersecurity awareness training, I had never done anything with OT, with operational technology before, but I thought I could learn it. And I think that's the part that I love most about training, is that I have to learn it myself.
Yeah.
I have to learn it to train it. So that's where I am now, and I'm actually super happy with where I am.
Wow. Well, let's talk about that. Learn it to train it, because I think oftentimes this is where individuals that might not be technical, individuals that are scared of tech, like you mentioned, going deep down in the ports, that might sound scary to some. Like, how did you go about learning it? Like, what's your approach to learning something completely new and being comfortable enough to talk about it the next day or the next week, to people that think you're going to be the expert on it because they see you as the expert on it?
100%. And I think remembering that that you're just a person, and never rarely being afraid to say, that's an excellent question, I don't know, let me find out and get back to you. I think that has always helped, but doing it. So when I used to do computer training a long time ago, they would hand you a manual, and I would literally, as if I was the learner, try to figure out And then, you're in a dialogue box and you're like, what does that do? Someone's going to ask me what that does. And not being afraid to try it and to mess it all up and start all over again. To get into cybersecurity, when I first started, they were speaking a completely different language. I mean, not only had I not been in tech for a long time, I'd never been in cybersecurity. I mean, when I left tech, cybersecurity was, not mainstream like it is now. And I took furious notes. If you could see the notes that I was like transcribing meetings. And then I would go and I would Google all of the terms that I didn't know so that I could figure out what it was. And I know that there's a lot of feelings on both sides about certifications. But I think getting a certification helps you understand. It gives you focus on what you could be learning in a path that's less random. I'm also a big fan of somebody said something and I'm going to Google it to see what it means. But that's not a path. Like learning to figure out your security plus. The people that do the CISSP just launched an introductory cybersecurity certification that's slightly less technical than the Security Plus, less ports and things like that. I think that's a great place to start, because just like when I went to massage school, you can do all different types of massage, and you could start off thinking, I've never done any massage, I want to be a sports massage therapist. But then once you start doing sports massage, you're like, well, this isn't really what I like. I'm more interested in prenatal massage or relaxation massage. So I think getting something pretty general like the intro cybersecurity certification or Security Plus helps you figure out kind of what you're interested in. And I think everyone starts out thinking they want to be a pen tester because it's legal crime. Oh, you're going to pay me to break into something? That's awesome. But to be good at it, there's, you have to know ports, you have to know networking, you have to know some scripting. There's a lot of technical stuff that maybe that's not right for everybody. But for me, I studied for the Network Plus exam, and then I studied for the Security Plus exam. And that really helped give me some background in knowing what I wanted. And I think because I'm interested in all of it, training is really great because I get to be a generalist and know a decent amount of stuff about a lot of things instead of having to know a lot about one thing.
And that's just thinking of the tech side. Now you have to even incorporate the operational
Right.
technology side, which for many that don't know, this is often potentially archaic technology that wasn't meant to be on an IP network.
Right.
And now you have to figure out, okay, well, how can we secure this? And then how can we still interact with it while it's on a potentially hostile network, and ensure that we can it won't kill anyone in the process.
Right. And I think that's sort of the training I'm working on putting together right now is the difference between IT and OT security. Everything you know about IT security means nothing, essentially. Well, a little bit, but most of it means nothing for OT security. And what does that mean? Just because it's impossible to secure an OT network doesn't mean you shouldn't try. So, I'm a huge fan of resources. And I think one of the best things, in my mind, one of the best things about the cybersecurity space is that there's so much free content because everyone's looking, just like you. I mean, you are doing this and helping so many people learn where they might want to go in cybersecurity. That's free. Anybody can just hop on and learn about any of the things that any of your guests learn about. InfoSec Twitter is crazy, but also a great source of information. But then there's places you can pay for, like Udemy has a really great OT security course that I took that's really helpful. People lend me, someone took the SANS ICS class and they lent me their book. If you really are interested, someone out there is willing to help you. if you're genuine and you really want to learn, there's so many people out there that want to bring other people up and bring people along.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I think it goes back to your original point of like asking for it and networking and building that rapport with individuals because, like you said, authentically asking for it versus like demanding it. You have
Do it
sometimes
for me.
people reach
Yeah,
out
right,
to you and be like,
right,
get me a job or like fix my resume. Like, sorry, I don't do that, first of all.
right,
And second of all, you're not paying me. So like
right, right.
unless we've built a rapport, like just giving you my time, like that's expensive. Like
Yeah.
let's build some friendship, let's build a relationship, and then I can help you. But demanding stuff from strangers is probably not helpful.
Is very common, but very not helpful. When I was in the beginning stages of trying to figure out, I mean, I've always been a trainer, so I don't know why it took me so long to get back into training. Any job I ever do has always been some form of training. But I took a whole bunch of people in the InfoSec community that I followed that also followed me because I knew, it wasn't just random. They also followed me. And I reached out to them on Twitter and I said, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up in cybersecurity. Would you mind having a conversation with me about what you do? Sort of this podcast, right? What you do here. Talk to me about what you do, what you like about, what you don't like about it. And I would say 7 people agreed to talk with me. I had phone calls, I had Zoom calls, I just in text, and they were so willing to share information with me and tell me what they liked about their jobs and what they didn't like about their jobs. That kind of gave me a good perspective on what else was out there instead of just randomly choosing coding, or networking or any of those things. So definitely ask for help and talk to people. I think that's huge.
Yeah, one of the challenges that I do, I call it the job seekers challenge, and it's like find that one role that you like. Go out and find 6 different job descriptions for that one role. They'll all be different, but there'll be an average that you can create from them. Assess yourself to that average, and then see where the gaps might be. Like how many of those boxes do you tick? And then reach out to 6 people and see if the boxes that you don't tick are really important to the role. Because oftentimes there'll be that extra thing that the manager needs or that company might need, but that might not be really relevant to everyone's role. So, and then like talk to those people, figure out what they do, what they like, and then you might find out that you don't like the role. Um, you've only invested at this point, I don't know, a couple hours in doing that. So
Right,
better than spending $10,000 at a boot camp just to figure out
right,
if you don't like it.
right. And I think you said a couple of important things just right in there. And I think one is um, you will never have all of the things in a job description in a job that you want. If you already do all of the things in that job description, you will be bored on the first day. So you need to figure out what the things are that you don't do that you could fake or you could learn on the job. And so I think apply for jobs that you aren't 100% qualified for. Because I do think passion and desire to learn are hard to get across in a resume, which is why cover letters are important. Um, but also you want to be passionate. You want to work at a company that you're passionate about, but people want to hire people that are excited to work there. So I definitely use the check out job descriptions to see what jobs were and to see what certifications they were. Like I was thinking about going for the cybersecurity CYSA plus, and then I looked at a whole bunch of jobs that I was interested in. None of them asked for that certification, and so while that's a good certification maybe to have for some jobs, it would have been, I don't want to say wasted time, but it wouldn't have gotten me to where I wanted to go based on what those jobs were asking for. And I think looking thinking of a job you think you might like and looking at what people are looking for is so huge. I agree with you on that one.
And I hate to be bold, but where do you get the confidence for this? Because oftentimes, someone who's been out of the job market for 20 plus years, hasn't been in this specific industry, doesn't meet the job requirements. Like you're going, I don't know if I should apply for this role. Like, where do you get that confidence? Like, how can we relate to them that it's possible to do this and to get the role?
Yeah. So part of it is I have always been a fake it till you make it sort of person. I nod a lot when I have no idea what they're talking about, and then I look it up later, which has gotten me very far in life. But when it comes to applying for jobs, apply for the job. If you don't get it, you're in the exact same position you were in before you applied for the job. But maybe you got an interview. Maybe you didn't get the job, but you got an interview and you made a connection with the person and you heard about what they are looking for. And maybe that's something you're interested in learning more about. You have nothing to lose by a little bit of your time, right? To apply for the job and maybe write a little cover letter. And I'm a huge fan of the cover letter if you don't have the experience, because you want to be able to explain why they should consider you anyway. But that's it. That's what you've lost in applying for a job that you're not 100% qualified for, is that time. I love this job that I'm doing now, but the New York Times was hiring for a cybersecurity awareness trainer, and I would think it'd be cool to say I work for the New York Times. So I applied for that job. I'm not looking. I'm not looking. But I applied and they didn't want me, but I didn't lose anything by applying for that job. I think the confidence is, it's less about confidence and more about let them decide if you're qualified for the job. Don't disqualify yourself.
Yeah.
Let them decide if you're qualified. Let them talk to you. Yeah.
Let's focus a little bit on the OT side. Describe to our listeners that might not be aware of operational technology, some of the differences. Because, like before talking to you today, I talked to a Ford technician that was interested in coming into cybersecurity, and I asked him like, how much of your job is computer related? And he said 75%. Because most of the diagnostics on the cars are all happening via computers. And I think a lot of people miss how much of operational technology, IoT cars are all computerized today.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely a piece to operational technology that's IT is focused on security, right? Data security, and OT is focused on human lives, safety, and so safety is the big is the priority for OT, not information. And so, really thinking about how you keep systems moving without messing them up, but being able to keep them safe. So a lot of OT security is figuring out how to not patch things like IT, not reboot things like IT, but mitigating circumstances, right? What are your compensating controls? How do you keep this system that's proprietary and runs on Windows XP and thus can't be patched? How do you keep that how do you keep that safe? How do you keep it from getting compromised and shutting down? And it shuts down the water treatment plants or transportation or a car. I mean, and so it's less about there's some patching and there's some vulnerability management, but I think it takes a lot of creativity to look at how to compensate for the inherent weaknesses, because your OT systems, I mean, maybe less in cars, right? Because they're newer technology, but you have a water treatment plant, for example, and that technology is, maybe older than me, because I'm young. I know, 20, 25, 30 years old, that technology is, they're not upgrading it. That's a a $2 million piece. They're not upgrading it. So trying to figure out how to make it safe without upgrading it, without patching it, without all of those things. So
Yeah, I think the scale of the equipment when you think of OT, like a bridge or a
yeah,
water treatment plant, like
yeah,
or even an ultrasound,
right.
the amount invested in that piece of equipment, a company is not likely to upgrade that anytime soon because they want to try to get as much out of it as possible. And other times, that was a one-off, custom-made programming logic controller PLC,
Right. Right.
um, just for that piece of equipment, and it can't be replicated. Like you have to make a new one, and that's with a new PLC. So you have to make everything new and custom again for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I think that when you think about IT security, we upgrade a server, and it bricks the server. You have data backups, and you can rebuild that server. And that's, it's time consuming, but it's possible. If you brick an OT device, I mean, there's redundant systems, hopefully, and all of that stuff, but it's not the same. You're not just running over to the store and grabbing another, $3 million piece of equipment and rebuilding it. So they're really, as much as your users in the IT world hate you updating things, in the OT world, they don't want you touching their stuff ever. Because what if it goes wrong? Like that's a big hurdle to overcome. And I think that's sort of where cybersecurity awareness comes in play, is to let them know what bad things can happen if we don't put these controls in place, if we don't do the upgrades that we can do.
okay. So as we're approaching the bottom of the hour, the end of our show, what one piece of sage advice would you give to someone who wants to follow into your footsteps into the OT world and help with security over there?
It's a huge new, I don't know if it's new, but it's a really growing field. There's a huge opportunity. And boy, one sage advice. Uh, I think it's cool because it's less IT tech, less information tech, and more stuff. So if you like stuff, building things, seeing how things work, mechanical things, OT is very cool. And for training, if you like talking to people, you can be a trainer. And if you like sharing information, you could be a trainer. And we need more people. We need more trainers out there. So I say go for
Perfect.
it.
Well, I want to thank you so much. But before we go, I want to share some comments that we've gotten along the way. And I think so. Rob Roy says, I love the fake it till you make it. Love it. Um, we have Aaron that says, Doreen, you're providing such great information. Wesley says, ignore the job descriptions and apply anyway.
I
Uh,
agree. I
great
agree.
advice, great advice. And then we have some folks coming from across the world. Looks like we have some folks coming from Uganda
Hello,
that are
Uganda.
appreciating that we're sharing all this information. And Aaron just says, love the passion and excitement. You totally made his day. So,
Thank you.
uh,
You made my day too.
absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on today, Doreen. For everyone watching, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube, hit that subscribe and notification button. And if you get us after the fact on podcast, feel free to share it with all your friends all around the world. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me, Chris. It was really great. I appreciate it.